Hey guys, welcome to Code. In this particular episode, we're gonna talk about what is the .gitignore file and why it is useful in the project. So without wasting any time, let's get started. As you can see, this is my working directory, that is demo app, and here you can see that it contains multiple directories and then files here, such as build folders here, node modules, public source, and VNV is for the virtual environment. So what happen in the real world scenario is whenever you are working on the large project, some files are automatically generated, such as if the project is Python project, then it will generate a compiled version of all the Python files, that is .pyc. It means we want to tell Git that ignore those kind of files. Similarly, the logs are generated automatically, and in case of Java, the .class file is generated. You can see that this build folder can be generated by just a single command, because it's a React application, and we can run a simple build command to generate this particular directory here. And similarly for this node modules, all the modules that we are using in this project are stored in the is written in the package.json. So to install it again, we just need to write a single command, and then that particular command will create node modules again and then install in your system. So it's an efficient way to ignore the files or the folders which can be generated or which can be just automatically generated. So for that, we have a special kind of files which is gitignore, which tells Git to ignore all the files or the directories that are written in this gitignore file. Before writing any rule in the .gitignore file, let's see the status of this repository. Git status here, and you can see by doing git status command, it shows me that this .git file is modified, which I have created, and it is in the non-staged area, which means it's modified. It's in modified area. And similarly, we have another section that is untracked file, which contains all the directories and the files which are in the untracked area of the Git. So if you don't know about what is untracked, modified, unmodified, and the different areas of Git, what is this git status command? So I have covered all these things in my previous video, and strongly recommend to watch those first, and the link is in description below. So in the end of this video, we are going to ignore these untracked file and tell the Git, according to the rules written in the gitignore file, ignore these kind of files and then directories. So let's start with the directories, and then we will see that how to ignore files here. So for directories, you can see that we have a two build directories. The first one is in a current directory and second one is in the subdirectory. So basically, let's start with writing a rule to ignore any directory in the current working directory. So this is my gitignore file, and any line started with hash is just a comment. So let's write a comment here that ignore directory from current directory. I'm going to ignore the build folder from the current working directory. So for that, just write build and put slash in the beginning of the name and save this thing. Go back to the terminal, do git status, but this time I will do with another attribute, that is s, which will give me a short description of the status. So hit enter. Here you can see that this question mark shows that all the files are in untracked area, and the M means it's in modified area. So now you can see that we don't see any build file in the current working directory of this this second status. It's not in untracked area now. Let's see, I want to write a rule to ignore both the build files. It means recursively ignore the file. Whenever you saw a build directory in the any directory or any subdirectory of the full project, just ignore it. So for that, now the rule is ignore directory recursively, right? So the name is directory and put slash in the end. Save this, go back to the terminal, git status again, and and let's hit enter, and now you can see this src build is gone from this untracked area. So that is what the second rules do, recursively ignores the directories. And similarly you can see that this PyCache is a case of recursively ignoring the file, because this PyCache may present in multiple folders or multiple subfolders. So I'm not going to write a whole path in my gitignore. So for that the rule is simple, just write this in the section of ignoring directories recursively. Similarly for this node module, this node module is only going to present in the current working directory, that is the root directory of the project. So this will go under the section of ignoring the file from the current directory. So let's write both the rules. Node modules should be here, and remember that the slash should be in the beginning, and this thing should be commented out. And ignoring PyCache recursively, put slash in the end. Save this thing. So now we have three rules for the PyCache, for build, and then for the node modules. So save this, go back to the terminal, git status again, and now you can see that node modules, PyCache, and the build is not in the untracked area now. So I hope you have understood the concept of ignoring the directories by using gitignore. So let's see how to ignore these files here. And for the files, you can see that I have a 2.txt file. The case is here, the first txt file is in the current working directory and second one is in the subdirectory. So go back to the gitignore file. Let's write a comment here that ignore file, and the rule is simple, that the first thing is that I can write name here, that is API slash and then requirement.txt, the whole path basically. But that is not an efficient way, because let's say we have a hundreds of txt file, then it's not we are not going to write all the absolute path here. Here the regular expression comes, so you should know what the regular expression is. Let's write a regular expression for the txt file, that is star.txt. So what does it mean? It's a rule for gitignore. Whenever you saw anything, any name or any path of the file which ends with .txt, just ignore it. Star means any character, any number of time. That is basically the name of the file .txt. Save from here, go back to the terminal, do git status, and now you can see the both txt file are not present in the untracked area. That's great. We have understood that how to ignore directories here and the files here. And the rules we have written is 1, 2, 3, and the 4 rules, the directories and then the for files. But as you can see, this API slash requirement.txt is very important file, because using this particular file, we are going to recreate our virtual environment and then install the packages which are needed to this project. So we don't want to ignore this requirement.txt. So for that, there's another rule we have to write in the gitignore file to tell the git that don't ignore that particular file. So let's write a comment here, don't ignore file. So line number 13, we have written a rule that ignore any kind of file which has extension of .txt. But here I wanted to tell git that don't ignore requirement.txt. For that, the rule is simple, the exclamation mark in the beginning and requirements.txt. That's it. So save it from here, go back to the terminal, git status again, and here you can see the requirement.txt is back again in the untracked area. So I hope you have understood how to ignore and the directories and then the files here. So I will share resources to read in more depth about this gitignore file in the description. Please like, share, and hit the subscribe button to get the notification of the latest video. Thank you so much.